know when you're ready.
And I'm just gonna post a tweet here, hon.
Oh
Tweet,
yeah.
tweet,
We should do
tweet.
the Twitter. I'll put the Twitter on this thing here.
Oh, there we go. I see it.
Okay, Shawn, welcome.
Awesome.
What was that?
That's your jack.
Oh, my jack.
That's your jack.
All right, turn it up again.
Okay. Hello?
It's all right. My headphone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My headphone jack's a little messed up, but yeah. To the people who just tuned in on YouTube, this is Shawn Wilkinson from Storj, and he's gonna explain how Storj and decentralized applications are gonna slay Dropbox.
Hello, guys. Like you said, I'm Shawn Wilkinson. I've been in the Bitcoin space about.
Oh,
Are you good to go?
Oh, you turned it down. That's why.
Oh. That was me.
Hold on a sec here. Did you hit a button?
No, I didn't touch any buttons.
Jack.
Oh. Has he gone away?
Still here.
Oh, good. That's
Can
good.
you hear me?
Yeah.
A little bit of feedback, but I think that works.
Sorry about that. And we have no signal.
It should come up. Hold on. It's just probably a little loose.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. This is work in progress. What is art, you know? How do we do that?
Well, our projector's being a bit finicky.
Hold on. Let's just restarting it.
Oh,
There we go.
Okay, the projector's working.
All right. Everything good now?
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
So sorry.
So take it away, Shawn.
All right. So it's funny, we can have all these nice technologies, blockchain, and the world's largest computing network, but we still have a little trouble getting video to work. It's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
hey, that's how it goes. So my name is Shawn Wilkinson. I've been in the Bitcoin space about 2 years or so now. Started off as a miner in about 2012. Took a break for a little bit. I was like, this miner, it makes my room too hot. So I took a little break from Bitcoin, and then it really started to take off, and I said, hey, this is actually an interesting concept. So about 2013, I got involved in a little bit of Bitcoin development, a little bit of Bitcoin Core, and started doing freelancing and working with cryptocurrencies like Purecoin and Primecoin, and really diving down into the technicals of Bitcoin. And so that's all kind of led me to this new platform that we're launching here that takes all the Bitcoin technology and applies it to the traditional ecosystem of the cloud. So we're all used to Dropbox or Google Drive, and we use it to store all our files and our movies, and it works great, but there's several problems. One of the foremost is security. So if you want something to be stored securely and you want to sync it across all your computers, well, you can do the sync across all your computer part on Dropbox, but that's something you don't really want to store important or confidential information on there because it's broadcast in plain text. Anyone can kind of break into that and see it. The prime example, I think it's about a week and a half ago, someone lost about $1 million+ just because they had their wallet file sitting around in Dropbox and someone was able to get into that. So it's not really great on the whole security portion. The other portion is the reward portion. So you have a computer, you have a hard drive, you're not using most of that space. So the idea is that you can take that extra space and sell it to a decentralized network. Someone on the other side of that has some storage. They need to store some stuff, pictures, videos, whatnot. And so you can use that extra space that you're not using, you're not getting anything out of it, and actually get some physical return, some cryptocurrency, some money for doing that. So Storj is just the platform to kind of connect those two together. The whole idea of a decentralized Dropbox that's faster, cheaper, more secure. And then also built around the idea is that you have all this extra hard drive space laying around. Why not do something with it? Why not sell it? So those are kind of the two parts of the storage ecosystem. So that's just a quick overview of what Storj is doing. So I want to see if there's any questions up to that point and kind of lead the discussion from there. I don't like to talk and blab too much. I like to just kind of see where people are curious about this and how it works.
Okay, so maybe I'll start with the elephant in the room. How does this compare to MadeSafe?
Sure. So the funny thing is that when people hear of MadeSafe and Storj, they think of, in the traditional sense, that we're competitors. Could be farthest from the truth. For those of you who are probably not familiar or familiar, MadeSafe is also working on a kind of distributed data, decentralized data protocol and applications. So the funny thing is, when we were actually doing the research for Storj, back a couple of months ago, we were working with the BitAngels. And when we were doing that due diligence is actually when we found MadeSafe and talked to them and say, hey, wait, why don't you just add cryptocurrency and Bitcoin to the technology that you're building? Because they've been building this for a couple of years. And I said, hey, that would be a great fit. And so they kind of jumped into the Bitcoin ecosystem, and here we are now. So we've been talking to MadeSafe from the very beginning. So the core of the thing is that Storj works on both apps and protocols. So we build the nice Dropbox apps, and we also have kind of our own decentralized architecture as well. And right now, MadeSafe is kind of working on that decentralized protocol, decentralized bottom layer of that portion. So they're working on the whole kind of decentralized internet and DNS. We're specifically focused on Storj. So the main differences are the technical portion. So they are kind of building out a peer-to-peer network. We're building more of our stuff directly on Bitcoin and blockchain technologies. So we're trying to achieve the same goal, but we're taking completely two different technical approaches. But at the same time, we're trying to build our tools in such a way that they work together very easily. So you might use a front-end app, and you might be using Storj and MadeSafe at the exact same time, or you can choose between the both. We really don't care. We just want to give the applications and the users as much options as possible. So there's a couple other decentralized data technology out there, Siacoin, Permacoin, Filecoin, that we're all looking to kind of integrate this and have this one great, awesome decentralized data technology. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Anyone else?
Any other questions along those lines, or?
How do payments work on the system?
So payments work many ways, but the primary way of the system is essentially microchannels and micropayments. So the idea is that you have your hard drive, you're storing encrypted bits of other people's file on your hard drive, and every there's essentially checks. So there's periodic checks to make sure you still have the file, you haven't modified it anyway, and we can get into the whole cryptographic functions of how that works. But essentially, there's just periodic checks. And so the network will check to make sure you have that file. And on that check, you're essentially getting paid a very small amount of cryptocurrency. So it might be you're doing, let's say, the check every hour. So you're getting paid every hour based on how long you held that file and how much storage space you're using. So again, it's microchannels, micropayments. Just you get paid in small increments as you hold the files.
Are those just regular Bitcoin transactions, or are you doing the transaction replacement stuff where you set up the protocol and go back and forth with unbroadcasted transactions?
Right. So right now we're a counter. So the cryptocurrency used in the Storj ecosystem is something called Storj Coin X. and that's something used to buy and sell your space on the network, and then it can be obviously used as a traditional cryptocurrency. So we're more going off of the already built-in work that Bitcoin J has done, and trying to look at that to see if that can handle the micropayments that we need. But the idea is we're using the existing microchannels and micropayment code that's already been written up there. So we're going to have to modify that a little bit for our platform.
In the service or the storage that you're offering, are you doing like MadeSafe, giving coins to people who share their storage, or are you looking at it as a business service like Box or Dropbox, where you pay to have storage capacity?
So that's where I was going with the whole apps and kind of protocol. So we're doing both, actually. So we're both building the applications and providing a solid foundation for people to be able to buy the space and use it. But we're also building out the tools to be able to have people sell their hard drives, sell their space to the network. So it goes full circle. It's a full ecosystem.
Is there any way to monetize your content? Say I upload some file that everybody wants to see, and is there a way for me to, say, earn money because the file is popular and is being downloaded to the network, therefore making a lot of payments in the network?
Sure. So there's essentially two portions to that. So one, you can run what is called our drive share software. So that's essentially, it's analogous to mining. We don't like to use that term. We like to call it farming. The idea is that you're like cultivating some resources that you have versus the brute force computation. So that's one way you can earn cryptocurrency through this network, is by, again, selling your hard drive space. The other portion is to host and integrate with a front-end application. One of those is Metadisk. So you'd be rewarded for transferring these files to other people. So there's both the payment mechanisms for keeping and holding the file, and there's also reward mechanisms for transferring this file around to other people. So one of the problems you have, or let's start with something we understand. So peer-to-peer networks, think BitTorrent and these other peer-to-peer networks. You can go on any torrent site, look up some files or some movies, and you can download that. And you can download those things very, very, very quickly if it's something popular. But what happens if it's not really something popular, not the latest movie or whatnot? Then the amount of people you can connect to download that very quickly slopes off to almost zero. So what we can do with cryptocurrencies is provide direct incentives for that. So instead of just having people volunteer to be peers and pass these files around, you can actually get paid, or your computer can get paid for providing the service. So as long as there's a particular demand for a particular file or whatnot, the network will automatically adjust to meet that need. So you'll always have that availability, and if you need more people to host that file, the market and the network will automatically adjust. Does that kind of answer your question?
No, it's not.
How with these small micropayments, like once an hour type thing to many different people for small, even if it's just like 1 or 2 meg or gig on your hard drive, how are Bitcoin fees playing into eating up a lot of the profit for people doing that? Have you actually got numbers on that yet?
I'm not using Bitcoin.
So in terms of the way microchannels and micropayments work is essentially you establish a channel between two parties. So you have node A over here and node B over here. And they can initiate a microchannel between the two of them, and then they can change that balance as much as they want. And it's not till they end the connection or they decide they're finished is when that transaction is broadcast to the network. So I can send you tens of thousands of transactions between the two of us, and it only matters at the very end what that balance is. So that's only when the Bitcoin fee comes into play. So that fee only happens once. So again, I can transfer. We can transfer that balance between the two of us in a completely trustless manner, but the fee is not incurred till we've completed that completely. Because, like you said, like if you were just to do a bunch of small payments, then that would just balloon into a bunch of fees. Microchannels and micropayments solves that essentially by bundling all those into one.
That's awesome. Is that part of the Bitcoin protocol from the get-go?
So right now, the only implementation of it is in Bitcoin J, and no one really seems to be using it. It's this great, awesome technology, but it's highly technical right now, and I don't think a lot of people are aware that it's kind of available and out there. So we want to really support that both in our ecosystem and on the Bitcoin protocol and ecosystem to put that out there on like usable apps and actually have people use that.
Is there a time limit on how long that channel is kept open for the transaction?
So that's something that I believe you specify when you're initiating that transaction. So you can specify those time limits and those variables and how you want that to go.
But theoretically, it could stay open for a week, a month, a year?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
I have a question. Are you worried about blockchain bloat because you guys are using Counterparty?
So not at all. So we have the core thing behind Storj is that we build things incrementally. One of the things you have with a lot of Bitcoin apps and protocols are just like, oh, we'll have it to you in 2 weeks, TM, and then it takes a year to deliver. So we just want to build things very slowly and very incrementally. So part of that is, one thing you should check out is our white paper on Metadisk. That's actually going to be released at the end of the week. But you can look at it now if you'd like to take a little early look. So it's metadisk.org/metadisk.pdf. There'll be links to that later on in the week. But essentially, we scale it out in the paper to show you that Bitcoin bloat under the long term would be a problem, but we're only using the blockchain to scale initially. We have some other methods to do that. So essentially, right now in the network, if you were to store a file, it would essentially make a transaction, and in that transaction would be embedded some metadata that would allow the network to know where that file is and its integrity and whatnot. And that takes about anywhere from 500 bytes to a kilobyte. So when you scale out to millions and millions of files, then you start to essentially get into this blockchain bloat problem. But essentially what you can do is, instead of inserting that directly, you can use something called proof of existence, where essentially you can take a bunch of files and summarize them all up into something called a Merkle root. And that's the only thing you store in the blockchain. So as far as that, we can, instead of storing one file via one transaction in the blockchain and using 500 bytes to a kilobyte, we can store 10,000 files with just one transaction and still have the security and the availability and all the information in the blockchain. So that's something that we're slowly scaling up, and we're not necessarily worried about blockchain bloat at all.
How would the price compare to something like S3 or other cloud storage?
So in terms of price to S3, Dropbox, and some of these other services, frankly, they're going to be decimated, because when you have a company like Amazon or Google Cloud or all these other traditional companies, you have costs associated with storing those data, right? You have servers, you have the maintenance, you have the heating, cooling, you have the building space, you have the employees, you have profits, you have all these things that factor into the core cost of that storage space and that service. For storage is completely different. You don't have servers or anything else to maintain. I'm simply taking my computer here that I've already paid for, I already own, I'm already paying for the internet, I'm maintaining it myself, and I'm throwing on a piece of software on it and hitting go. So all of those costs associated with that storing of the data are essentially sunk costs. I've bought all that stuff already, I'm already using it. So the costs associated with actually storing and using that data end up to be 10 to 100 times less. So I think it serves. One of the thing is the security and speed aspect of the network, but I think another thing, a powerful motivator, will just be the cost, because a lot of those core costs in the service are just simply not there anymore.
I have a question about how you came up with, like 10 times to 100 times more cost efficient. Do you have a more exact breakdown of these numbers?
Yeah, so if you look at our white paper and then you look at some of our blog posts, so you can go to blog.storj.io, and you can start to see some of the numbers that we've crunched for that. And it's also in our white paper. It's worth pointing out that everything on the storage network is priced on a market basis, so we're not sitting there and setting prices for data. Essentially, the person who's selling their hard drive space is able to set their price, and so the network and the market will adjust to whatever price there needs to be to make that match. So my only core thing is that the costs of actually storing the data are substantially less, because you don't have, again, the maintenance, the server costs, the profit margin, the employees, the billing space, all those things that factor in something like Amazon, you don't have in our decentralized system.
But so are the rewards, right? Why would I install software, run it, make sure it's accessible to the internet all the time for what, 2 cents a month or something? It's not worth it. You have this,
So
like
that's so the funny thing is, when we actually did our data costs, or just we took the traditional numbers for cloud storage and what people were paying, and essentially you can buy, just looking at the traditional numbers like Dropbox, I can buy a 2 terabyte $60 hard drive from like Best Buy, and if I was to sell that at Dropbox prices and factor in redundancy, I'd make about $600 or so over the course of a year. So you break even in about a month or two. It's simply because that these data providers like Dropbox have these huge margins. So all Dropbox does is take Amazon S3 and mark it up like 10x. And then they're just like, here's Dropbox, here's an application. So the margins for making profit on selling your drive space or whatnot is much, much, much larger than something compared to mining. I'll give another example for that. So you have Bitcoin miners, right? That's something we all understand. And you have this huge industry of people, building out the fastest chips and trying to get all this hashing power in, and to essentially just compete for this tiny little bitty 25 Bitcoin block reward. And the Bitcoin network is like the largest supercomputer in the world. It's larger than the top 500 supercomputers combined, and it's been that way for years. So they're all competing for this small 25 Bitcoin block reward. Versus decentralized data and Dropbox and all these applications, that's a $150 billion market. So there's a much larger market for selling data than there ever is for something like mining. So once I think you have to kind of look at the numbers yourself, and it really surprised me when we were doing our research, just to see how large these margins were. So does that answer your question on that part?
Yeah.
Oh, feedback over there from somebody. Okay.
Someone's mic's on. That's all good.
Freddy's.
Oh, thanks, Yuri.
Yeah.
We're trying to call Alex in. That's what the problem.
Oh,
As
Alex.
soon as you connected, it started happening. So.
Oh, thanks, Yuri.
So any other questions along those lines? Anyone
I don't know if I missed.
would like?
I don't know if I missed this, but how are you? How are you going to be operating together with MadeSafe? I heard you would be partnering with them in some way.
Right. So I described this in the beginning of the call. So actually, we've been talking to them from like the very beginning of when Bitcoin, when MadeSafe was kind of integrating with Bitcoin. So we found them when we were doing kind of our discovery and research, and that's how they kind of dropped into the Bitcoin ecosystem. So we've been talking to them from the very beginning. So our main thing is that we build apps and kind of the underlying protocols as well. So whatever decentralized data protocols that kind of MadeSafe puts out, we're just going to integrate those into our front-end apps. So that just means we have more availability, more space running around in our network. So it's kind of crazy because that doesn't normally work in the traditional sense. You can't take a file from Dropbox and access it on Google Drive. But we really want to make all these protocols and things work together because they're all distributed, they're all decentralized. So why not just have them all work together to the benefit of the users and the applications actually building on top of this? So we're trying to throw out the old methods of competition. We all work together, right? So that's our idea.
Nice.
How do you solve the problem of spoof identity? Say I have 1 terabyte hard drive and I'm connecting 10 IPs to it. Will I get 10 times the money because I'm pretending to be 10 different people holding the same files, or are you handling that somehow?
Oh yes, the good old fun Sybil attacks and redundancy attacks. So essentially, the way we've solved this is by enforcing redundancy on the network level, not the physical level. So when you typically store a file on something like Amazon S3 or these traditional cloud services, they normally either have physical redundancy through some kind of RAID scheme, or they're storing your file in multiple data centers. So the typical industry standard is like about 3. So we want to store your file about 3 places, so if something goes down, or that hard drive crashes or whatnot on the server, then we can just recover it from somewhere else. Now the way we've done that is by, again, enforcing redundancy on the network level, not the physical level, because we can't prove that you're using a particular RAID scheme or that you have redundant hard drives or whatnot. So in terms of that, each copy, so you store your file on the network, we recommend at least about 3 copies of that, 3 redundant copies on the network, just in case something goes down. But each one of these copies is uniquely encrypted. So it's the same file, but it's encrypted, so each copy is unique. So without you being able to, without you storing all 3 of those copies, then you won't be able to pass the network verification. Just mathematically and cryptographically, you will not be able to pass those verifications without holding each individual redundant, unique copy.
Okay, but how do you not fit in with, say, the network chain? Say there are 3 copies that are uniquely encrypted. I'm not online to encrypt it again. The 2 copies go down, and it needs to replicate that 1 copy it has to 2 more spots. How does it change the encryption without me actually re-encrypting it?
Sure. So essentially what you can do is you can just, when you're generating, so before you upload the files to the network, you essentially generate something called a heartbeat. So it's a bunch of cryptographic hashes that say, okay, if I pass this particular seed to you and you take the file and you hash these together, you're going to give me a unique answer back for that. And that's proof that you've essentially stored that file. And so what I can do is I can generate all these challenges beforehand. So if a particular copy goes down, all I have to do is have the network transfer one of those existing copies to another place, re-encrypt it so it's unique, but only I have the challenges for that. So in terms of that, that's completely taken care of. That's completely fine. If one redundant copy goes down, the network is able to essentially recover that. So it's kind of like a self-healing network, to break it down in a few words. Does that answer your question?
I guess. Anyone else?
Oh yeah, hey Shawn. First of all, you look really good on camera, brother.
Thanks. It's probably the Google glasses here.
If this doesn't work out for you, check out the film industry, okay?
Okay, definitely.
You're a good-looking cat. So I had Alex is listening. Alex is he's watching the podcast or whatever you want to call this damn thing, this broadcast. And his question is, how do you feel your crowdfunding is going? It looks like you raised about 300 to 400K right now in Bitcoin. You're asking for about 6 million in Bitcoin. What's going on? Tell us what you're feeling on that.
Oh, the crowd sale is going awesome so far. So a lot of people look at that 10,000 Bitcoin number, and they get really confused. They're just like, well, this doesn't match up with the goal and how much you raise and whatnot. So that was actually the plan from the beginning. So the idea is that we're going to have some amount left over from the crowd sale. So the amount that's not being used in the crowd sale. And essentially we'll be able to distribute that through kind of future applications that we're building, future crowd sales, and also early farming. So the idea is that the cryptocurrency in Bitcoin or in our network is not inflationary. So it's not magically created as people mine or farm their hard drives and whatnot. So essentially we're just trying to take that cryptocurrency and distribute it to our users through actually providing storage space in the network and crowd sales to build out applications. So one of the main things is that if someone contributes or participates in the crowd sale, they get early access to the drive share, our kind of hard drive farming application, Metadisk, which is kind of our web-based, decentralized version of Dropbox, so we're also building off a few applications. And then they also get the cryptocurrency used in the network, StorjCoinX. So whatever we have left over just means that we have more to distribute to the people who are participating in the crowd sale and doing this kind of early mining. So the idea is that we build the network up slowly from the ground up. So we do this very incrementally and very modularly. So we can kind of learn from the live network and really get direct feedback as we're developing from the users. So we don't end up developing something that nobody wants or building something when people really want something different. So we really want, as a platform, to be really open and flexible and get a lot of feedback on what we're doing. So we've kind of structured it in that manner that we can do that, and it allows us a lot of flexibility.
Is the network live? Or when will it be?
Metadisk has actually been out for a few months. It's actually been kind of hush-hush, and we've been using it internally. But you can find some links to that web software on our forums. So we're actually working on the third iteration of that, and working more closely to get it to production level. So we've been using it internally. And then we're working very hard on drive share application, so our second application. So we're building this out as a series of applications. That's kind of how we build things out and how we build things out modularly. So you can poke around with Metadisk, and then you can also poke around with some of our stuff that really hasn't been released yet. But we hope to have the drive share software out pretty soon to our crowd sale participants and have them playing around with that and giving us feedback and kind of telling us where they want us to go from there.
How are you handling changes to files? Sort of multiple master sync or like?
Sure. So right now, that's handled through essentially doing a new transaction. That's very simple and easy to do through our API, but we want to move away from that. So again, our main thing is let's make this, build it out and work and have some initial prototypes, and then scale out to do a bunch of new cool things. So we're working with people from notary chains and also prototyping and building out some new applications to actually be able to have kind of a file system in a blockchain. And we're also looking at some of the existing work and papers on that. And also things like Tahoe Lofts is a really interesting project that's going to be working on that for a long time. So the question, the answer to that is we're playing with a bunch of different methods to be able to do that. There's many different ways you can do that. So we really want the live network to actually be able to tell us which is the best way to go.
When does the crowd sale end?
So the crowd sale ends in about, I'll give you the exact count based off our website. So the crowd sale ends about 11 days from now. I believe that is the, let's see, the 15th? Yes, I believe that's the 15th. So fairly soon, about another, next week, it'll be all finished and done. And then our primary goal will be getting out some of our initial software to the crowd sale participants.
I got a question. What do you think of Google Glass, man?
It's fun stuff. It's fun stuff, you know. I can, you know, be able to look at the Bitcoin price all day and panic as it goes up and down. So I don't even have to look on CoinMarketCap. You know, it's right there in my eyeball.
All right, my next question is, what do you think end of year price of Bitcoin will be?
Say that again?
End of year prediction for price of Bitcoin.
Obviously to the moon. Really can't happen any other way. I don't know. It's about that time in the year where last year when things really picked up. So I know 5K, 4K. I know I'm not really too concerned about the price too much. I'm long. So we'll get there eventually. But we'll see what happens. It'll be a crazy roller coaster in the meantime.
So really you're looking at how much Bitcoin you carry, not the market valuation of it. It's like gold.
Say that one more time. I didn't quite hear you.
Like people who own gold, they don't care about what the price of gold is. They care about how many ounces of gold they have.
Right, exactly. So yeah, you can see our current tally right there.
Oh yeah, right. You're paying attention. Awesome. That's my cat.
I see a cat over there. I've actually been staring at it the whole time.
Oh yeah. That's Eleanor. She's our little she runs security down here.
Okay.
Alex had another question for you regarding the centralized storage and how affordable it seems to be right now. Do you have any comments on that?
Repeat your question. I didn't quite understand.
What's the? Let's forget that one because I don't like that question anyway. How many people are working on your team right now?
So looking at the count right now, we have about 22 active participants right now, and we're growing every day. So we try to make it kind of flat and easy to integrate and build things on Storj. So we have a bunch of people working on the core stuff, helping us with writing, design, and then also building their own applications on top of Storj.
Besides Storj, what other decentralized applications are you most excited about, and why?
That's a long list there. Ethereum is definitely a fun one that everyone's talking about. Um, I'm really looking forward to kind of the stuff that's built off of the new platforms that are coming out. So the possibilities enabled with Ethereum storage and MadeSafe and all these other protocols, I think that's where we'll get into. We're building out kind of the base layer to make these things possible, but I'm really excited about maybe the next step to that in terms of building out gaming and virtual reality stuff and all kind of fun
What
applications.
about?
Say that again? I didn't hear you.
Fine. Hey, Shawn, what do you think of Ripple?
I've only taken a glance at Ripple. I've been hearing more about Stellar recently.
So think about Stellar.
So that's the one that people have been asking me a lot of questions about. So I have to take some time out of my day to look in that a little bit more depthly. So I'm a little bit more excited about Stellar than I am about Ripple right now.
What about Stripe?
Stripe, I've heard a couple things about them, and they've released some interesting stuff, but that's kind of not in my sphere of the space. So positive things, but I haven't taken really a good look of what Stripe is doing.
What about Goldfish, John Swell's outfit from realistic.co.uk? Have you heard anything from them?
Say that one more time, a little louder.
Goldfish, that new crypto bullion thing from John Swells from realistic.co.uk. Have you heard anything about that? Or?
You said crypto bullion?
Yeah.
So I've heard of it, but I haven't looked at that much. I've heard it mentioned, but I haven't taken an in-depth look at it. There's a lot of cryptocurrencies and a lot of stuff being released every day. It's kind of hard to keep track and write papers and code at the same time. So I might be a few coins behind.
What's your marketing plan? I hear a lot about the coding and how it all is going to work, but how are you acquiring users?
So sure. So really, our main focus right now is code before talk. So we kind of want to get away from the making a whole bunch of promise and really oversell what we're trying to build, and that leads to a bunch of misconceptions. So right now, our head is kind of in the code right now, but as we finish up the crowd sale, and as we actually start pushing out physical applications that people can use, then that's when we're going to get into more hardcore marketing and putting it out there and getting into users. But one of the things that makes it a little easier is there's inherent rewards in this. So there's inherent rewards in selling your hard drive space and whatnot, participating in this network, and a lot of people in the Bitcoin space understand that already. So the second I say, you can essentially farm out your hard drive, just kind of how it works for mining, they're like, sign me up. Where do I download the application? So it's a very easy sell to the Bitcoin users and to get them involved because they understand those fortunes. So we're really looking at the Bitcoin ecosystem in terms of prototyping this out and building an initial user base and getting people involved and developing apps to really kind of incubate. And once that's more mature, then it's just simply about building applications that abstract away the cryptocurrency, the blockchain, the Bitcoin stuff, and just have usable tools that works technically on the back end with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and blockchain technology and all that technical stuff. On the back end it works that way, but in the front end software, it's just drag and drop. So even in terms of one of the applications that we have out now, there's no software installed, there's no complicated setup. to upload files to the storage network, you just drag and drop it in kind of the web interface, and it uploads it, takes care of all the encryption and all that stuff for you. So we really want to make it easier as we go forward. But right now, we're just kind of bootstrapping and focusing on actually building it out.
Cool. Any other questions? All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Shawn. Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. It was great to talk to you guys. Feel free to take a look at our stuff on our website. It's storj.io. That's going to give you all the information. We have a nice little video, too, that breaks down everything. You can get more information. We also have an email which you can reach out to us. That's hello@storj.io. And we also have forums and whatnot. And we're fairly active on Twitter and Reddit. So plenty of places to get information about storage, read more on us, ask us questions. We love good questions and feedback. That's really what's driven the project for it so far. It's just like, don't do this, do that. And we're like, okay, that seems like a good idea. So we really like to get feedback and get people's ideas on where this should go. And then if you'd like to get involved directly as well, let me know, and I'd be happy to introduce you to the team and see, what applications or whatnot you would like to build off of Storj. So that's my wrap up.
Cool, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you so much.
Indeed.
We'll talk again sometime.
All right.